What's going on, Jam fam? So, just like with star powers, we have gadgets that are really bad and they almost never get used. Fidget Spinner is probably the poster boy for these, but there are also other ones, and today, at the request of my boy Sweezy, we're going to talk about those and what I would do to fix them. Just like with the star power video, let me know what gadgets you think suck and what you would do to fix them, and remember, if you enjoy my rambling, make sure you leave a like on this video, and if you're new, consider dropping a sub as well. And with all that out of the way, let's get started.
Don't touch my canary!
Alright, so we already mentioned Dynamikes Fidget Spinner, and in the past, this one already received a damage buff and a speed buff, and neither one of those saved it, so honestly, I don't think there's anything we could do to make it better, so we have to outright replace it. Now, one idea I had for a new gadget for Dynamike would be to give him a mine that he places at his feet, kind of like Bell, but instead of it slowing people down, it just does a ton of damage. Something like 2,000 damage. This would be really good for blocking off choke points, or when a tank or a mortis get really close, you could drop it at your feet to try to defend yourself, and they could even give it knockback, but that might make it a little bit too powerful. I really like this idea because it still fits Dynamike's theme pretty well, and I think that if they give it big damage like I said, it would give it a good chance to compete with Satchel Charge for Dynamike's best gadget.
Hey, you broke my guitar!
Okay, Pokemon's Protective Tunes has that problem where it's very situational and you're only going to use it in certain matchups. Granted, things like slows and stuns are more common nowadays than when it was first released, so it can be used more often now. But in my opinion, the bigger issue with this gadget is that it only has 3 uses, and in the situations where you want to bring this gadget, you're going to burn through those 3 uses very quickly. Crow Poisons, M Slows, Frank and Gale Stuns, all these things are going to happen more than 3 times a game, and you're going to burn through your uses of this gadget pretty quickly. But I got a super easy fix for this. All they got to do is increase the number of uses for this gadget from 3 to maybe 5 or even 6. Now, I know we typically only see gadgets with 3 uses, but we've seen them nerf gadgets down to 2 uses to try to balance them out because they're overpowered, so I don't know why the opposite can't be true at the same time. Also, there's this tweet from Frank from like 2 years ago where he talked about how they weren't opposed to the idea of having a gadget that only had 1 use, but it would be very game-changing. Now, obviously, that tweet is super old, and we haven't seen a gadget like that, but it shows that at one point in time, they weren't opposed to ideas like the one I'm throwing out here. So what this change would do is it would keep the gadget as a situational pick, but when you do take it in those right situations, you're going to get a ton of value out of it for pretty much the entire match that you're in. And honestly, in my opinion, because all it does is remove debuffs, I don't think that it would make it overpowered, but if you disagree with me about that, you can let me know down in the comments.
Ah, shoot.
Back in the day, Gale's Spring Ejector gadget was overpowered, and he was actually meta because of it, but nowadays, it's really bad, and it's really only used when you're trying to get people trapped in troll maps or something like that. The range on it is just way too short, and by the time you stop and wait on the pad for it to launch you, you might as well have just kept running in that same direction anyways. So in my opinion, this is another gadget that I think doesn't have a really easy fix, and I think we're just going to have to outright replace it. So my idea for a new gadget for Gale would be to bring back his second win star power and make it a gadget that applies to his next super. If you don't remember, second win was Gale's second star power, and what it did was it gave his super the ability to give his teammates a speed buff. I always thought this was a really good star power, but they honestly never really did anything with it to try to make it better, and they just outright replaced it. Making it a gadget seems like a really good fit with me, and it would pair really nicely with his Blustery Blow star power. You'd be able to stun enemies and buff your teammates at the exact same time. Also consider the point of Spring Ejector is to give a mobility buff to you and your teammates, and this does the exact same thing, but in a better way in my opinion. I think this would be a pretty good change for Gale because it would keep his support abilities about the same without giving him a really overpowered gadget like the old Spring Ejector was. Alright, Gene's Ventful Spirits has to be one of the worst gadgets in the entire game. I really don't see a great use for it because what it does is basically already accomplished by Gene's main attack. To me, this gadget has 2 major drawbacks. One is that the damage it does is based on how far the spirits actually travel, and 2 is that the damage cap on it is extremely low. Now, I've said this before, but 1,000 damage really isn't much in my opinion. Sure, it can be used to stop people's health regen, and maybe even get a cheeky kill here and there if someone's really low, but like I said at the beginning of this segment, Gene's main attack already accomplishes those goals, so it really doesn't really do anything for him. And to make matters worse for this gadget, the damage it does is based on how far the spirits actually travel, like I already said, so basically if somebody's too close, it's going to do basically no damage, and it's going to be useless. But this is another gadget that has some really easy fixes. All they got to do is remove the distance requirement so the gadget does the same amount of damage all the time, and they got to buff the damage up to about like 1,500, honestly, and that might sound like a lot, but it's a damage gadget, it's supposed to do damage, so I don't see why it only does 1,000. Really, all these changes do is make it so the gadget can actually do its job, and that's do damage and get kills when you're out of ammo.
The spirits are calling my name.
Okay, honestly for Bo, I could go with either one of his gadgets, but we're going to stick with Tripwire here because I think it's the easiest one to balance. Tripwire used to be really good when it had an instant detonation because you could pretty much guarantee stuns when people were trying to trip your mines. Now, obviously, it was really broken, so they nerfed it, so now there's this crazy long delay on when the mines actually blow up, and it's pretty much useless now. Fortunately, Tripwire has a really easy fix, and honestly, I don't know why they haven't made this change yet, but all they gotta do to make Tripwire good again is remove the delay from it, but also make it so when mines are activated this way, they can't stun brawlers. This is literally the exact same thing they do with Buzz's gadget, so I don't know why they haven't applied that change here yet. You would still be able to punish people for trying to trip your mines at the wrong time, you would still get a lot of damage done from them, and you would get the knockback, you just wouldn't get stunned. Honestly, I think Bo's mines do enough damage to justify using the gadget this way, and I think it would find a lot of use at high trophies where people are a little bit better at tracking the mines and tripping them in a more efficient manner, so you could actually trigger them when people step on the mine. Like I said, it's a really easy fix, it makes sense to me, and I don't know why they haven't made this change yet. But those are some of the worst gadgets in the game, in my opinion, and what I would do to fix them. And unfortunately, I couldn't just buff all these gadgets because I think some of them are just really broken conceptually. So I tried to replace those with gadgets that I thought were fair and also fit thematically. As for the others, I tried to buff them up without making them too overpowered, but maybe I pushed it a little bit too far. You can let me know about that down in the comments. And again, remember to let me know what gadgets you think are really bad and what you would do to fix them. But that's going to do it for this one. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.